I just want to say I'm always amazed at how the pieces during the reading speak to each other. And I'm really emotional right now. And Christine's, yours just broke me. And you'll see in a minute some of the things, why, but some of the things you need to know about this piece is actually from my work in progress, my new memoir on my time in the military. And some of the things that you need to know would be that I got pregnant about 2 months after I got to my first duty station. Anyone who's been in the military knows how much of a problem that is for a command. And because I was pregnant and a single mother, my command said they would not move me into housing because if the baby died, it would be too hard for them to get me out. So I was forced to stay in the barracks throughout my pregnancy. I had no car, no home, and no real partner. I was a single mother in an abusive relationship. And happy Father's Day to you fathers out there. But I want you all to those of you who have children or who dream of having children, just think about the day that you took your first child home and what that meant and how that felt for you. This is my day in which I took my son home. Cindy is the sister of my son's father, and my son's father's name is Peter. Laurie, can I hold Derek while you sit in the front? Cindy asked as Sergeant Cheney's car coasted to the entrance of the hospital. I responded not with words, but with the pressing of Derek's body to my own. While I hadn't immediately bonded with my baby, as the book What to Expect When You're Expecting had promised, the enormity of my task, protecting Derek, was with me. I slid into the front seat of Sergeant Cheney's car, oblivious to the look Peter was giving Cindy as they sat in the back. After the 10-minute ride to the barracks, Peter and I exited the car at the same time. I smiled at him, beaming from the excitement of all things Derek, but Peter did not return my smile. Rather, he leaned over the car trunk and whispered, "I'm fucking you up when we get upstairs." My eyes widened in confusion. His face and almond brown eyes looked calm, unbothered, but his words spewed hatred, vengeance. He then turned to Sergeant Cheney with his hand extended and his face wearing a wide grin. "Thanks for the ride, Sergeant Cheney. We really appreciate your help." He was so charming, so kind to her. I wanted to jump back into her car or take her into the barracks with me so the charming Peter would remain, but she had other duties, and her obligation to me expired once she dropped me off at the barracks. I held onto the door of Sergeant Cheney's car, contemplating escape. If I told her I was afraid that he'd hurt me, eventually the whole unit would know I was a battered woman, and I'd already caused so many problems for my chain of command with getting pregnant during the first months of my assignment. I couldn't chance another visit to the commander's office, so I released the door in the hope that I could escape Peter. "Carter, Sergeant Johnson will pick you up in 2 hours and take you to the lodging house, so be ready," Sergeant Cheney said. Petrified, I could not respond, so Peter reached over my shoulder, shook her hand again, and said with a smile, "Thanks, Sergeant Cheney. We'll be ready then." Once the door to the car closed, Peter returned to the Peter I knew. "You wait until we get upstairs. I'm gonna beat your ass." I pulled Derek close, as if he could shield me from Peter's threats. Once we entered the barracks, I trudged the stairs, hoping the passage of time would quell his anger. I must have moved too slowly, because Peter knocked me across the head with the Sitz bath kit the hospital had given me. The plastic clunked, sending streaks of light darting across my squinting eyes. I steadied myself, fearful Derek would fall out of my arms if Peter's blows became more urgent, more intentional. I hustled up the 3 flights of stairs, my body still contracting and bleeding from the work of labor I had completed 2 days before. Once inside, Peter locked the door and flung the Sid's kit on the bed. He snatched off his coat and began bouncing from leg to leg, fists raised like a boxer ready for a match. "Put the baby down, Laurie," he snarled. "What did I do?" I cried. "I don't even know what I did." "Put the baby down," he repeated as I clutched Derek. "Please forgive me, Peter. I'm sorry for whatever I did." "If you don't want me to beat your ass with that baby in your hand, you will put him down now." Peter lurched forward with fists balled into hammers. I flinched and plopped Derek on the bed hard in an attempt to keep him away from the edge. Peter pounced, clamping my neck in a headlock as he used his free arm to punch my head, face, stomach, all exposed parts of me. I held tightly his waist, praying his blows wouldn't be as effective due to our close proximity and his limited mobility. Still locked, we spun from the footlocker to the wall to the heater. As we bounced to the bed, I arched my body, making certain not to land on the baby. Derek wailed as if he too were flailed throughout the room, and Cindy pounded Peter's back, but even she could not release his hold. In surrender, I bent my body, covered my face, and covered my head and face so bruises would be limited to areas concealed by clothing. I willed my body limp so Peter would be forced to hold my weight as he flailed with my neck clamped in his arm. Finally, he let go, and we squared up again, my face and shoulders bent toward the floor, his chest heaving, hands still tightened into fists. I had no tears to cry for myself, so Derek on the bed cried for both of us. Cindy held Peter by the arm as I lowered my body, finding adequate space on the heater. Wrapped in exhaustion, I howled. The hope that Derek would make things different, could make Peter better. That hope had been beaten out of me again. Derek's cry softened to a whimper as I gathered myself, preparing to care for my son. I edged my way toward the bed, avoiding physical contact with Peter. I collected Derek and returned to my seat on the heater. Cindy released Peter and passed me a bottle. "Are you okay, Laurie?" she asked, and then turned to her brother. "Peter, you're a motherfucker." Cindy cried too. "What the fuck are you talking about, Cindy?" he yelled. "You know she made me do it. She's the one who sat in the front seat with the baby. He could have been killed." That was it. I had sat in the front seat with the baby. I had endangered his life. I almost laughed. The situation made more perverse with the irony of his words. Peter, the same man who first struck me the day he learned I was pregnant, was concerned for the baby's safety. The same man who had battered and bruised me throughout my pregnancy, worried about the baby being killed. The same man who had minutes before clamped my neck in a headlock as blood leaked from my body and milk leaked from my swollen breast. He had beaten me in order to protect his baby, my baby. "Why didn't you tell me not to put him in the front seat?" I cried. My own tears then. I didn't know. "I shouldn't have had to tell you," Peter smirked. "That's why I asked you if you wanted me to hold him, Laurie," Cindy added. "I thought you knew." "Why didn't you tell me?" I repeated, searching for answers that would justify my punishment. Peter's eyes softened, and he walked toward me. I raised my arm, shielding myself from another blow, but the blow did not come. He placed his hand on my shoulder and lowered his face to mine. "I'm sorry, Ma. I was mad, but I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry," he said as he inspected my body, surveying bruises he'd left behind. "I won't do that to you again. I promise." And it was a promise I knew he would keep. Each attack had been different from the first, from the second, from the many that followed. He had not hurt in the same way, but hurt he had, each day crafting a new definition of hurt for me. An hour later, Sergeant Johnson took us to post lodging. I held Derek and sat in the back seat as Peter held me gently, wrapping his arm around my bruised shoulder. After Sergeant Johnson left, I drew a hot bath, hoping to relieve the tightness of it all. I lay in the tub, submerged in heat. The bruises on my arms, chest, and stomach ripened into purple stains. I scrubbed as if soap could be enough to wash them away. I made no attempts to scrub the bruises in my mind. Too deep and too many. Life had taught me they were best left untouched. Once I exited the tub, I surveyed my body in the mirror. Red, blue, and purple patchwork. My skin wore the pattern of camouflage BDUs. Why didn't they tell me? I repeated through tears. I gave him a son, a reason to be better, and he just... I stood in front of the bathroom door, dreading the other side. Cindy was probably feeding Derek as Peter sat close by, waiting for my return. I placed my hand on the knob, afraid to enter the chasm in which Peter resided. Remaining in the bathroom meant separation from my baby. Leaving that space meant I was again under Peter's control. I stood at the door with aching body, wringing my hands, waiting for answers, but none existed. Only a future I alone had to walk. So I waited, relishing the silence until I mustered courage enough to open the door.